Hello everyone and welcome to Inform New Hampshire. My name is Dean and this is Richie to my right. And we are broadcasting live Tuesday at 5 p.m. on Manchester Cable Channel 23. We also have a YouTube channel called Inform New Hampshire. Please stop by and hit the subscribe button if you will. And we also have a Facebook group also called Inform New Hampshire. Richie and I are dedicated to bringing in news and information and certainly some commentary on things that you will not hear in the mainstream media. Oftentimes they're forbidden to report on the truth, hence the name fake media for the mainstream media. And thankfully Donald Trump is the first politically incorrect president willing to call it out. So prior to getting started, I just want to mention that our good friend and patriot friend Jerry DeLamus is still incarcerated unlawfully and without good reason, without having committed a crime. He's recently been moved, and I'll have Richie talk about that. So,
yes, my understanding is Jerry is being moved. We don't know where. They'll notify Sue when it happens, I guess, whenever they settle him in. But he's in the process of being moved. He's no longer in Nevada. He's heading east. I don't know how far he's going to come, but he's heading east. Yeah, he's still in jail, 87 and, yeah, I was going to say 87 and a half. 87 months in jail, which I don't know how long that is. 7 years? Over 7 years. Anyway, the fight is still there, so if you care to keep Sue and Jerry in your prayers, I know they'd appreciate it, and if you could find it in your heart to send some money to help his legal aid fund, I'm sure they'd appreciate that too. You can do that by going to freejerrydelemus.com. On the internet, give whatever you can. It's free, JERRYDELEMUS.com. And thank you. I appreciate it. I feel as though Jerry stood up for my rights, because all of our rights are the same. The right to speak, to carry a gun, to freely assemble, all of that. They're all our rights. So when he stands up for his or someone else's right, he's standing up for mine. And I don't want to let him down. So thank you for that. And we're talking about what, corporations today?
Sure are.
And the benefit that they have for mankind. I just wanted to say that originally I believe they were beneficial, but they've gone awry. At least I believe they have. That's my opinion.
In particular, what kind of corporations are we talking about?
Oh, well, that's a hard question to answer because everything's a corporation.
Yeah.
Yeah, everything's a corporation, so we'll get into that though. So I don't know how to answer that question.
Excellent. All right.
We were going to start off talking about the birth certificate, which I think we mentioned a few weeks ago. The birth certificate is generated off of the certificate of live birth, and the government produces your birth certificate, which is an all caps letter. And as Dean read last week or 2 weeks ago, a person is a human being, but in legal use, it's a corporation. Figure that out. I mean, I didn't write the dictionary definitions. Please look them up, person, and you'll see what's happening with that. The government has taken you from a human being and diminished you to a corporation. And you don't even know about it, by the way. This is all, I don't know what you want to call it, subversion, subterfuge, everything deceitful you can think of, and deceit's another good word. So they turned you into a corporation, you don't even know it. Every time something comes to the house in an all caps name, you say, oh, that's me, because the spelling's right, it's your name, it's just that it's all caps, and you don't realize the significance of the all caps. So please read the definition of persons and you'll understand it, what they've done to you. What they've done, by the way, not to you, to everybody. I can't say on the planet, I don't think it's happening in third world countries, but just about most of the people on the planet. It's not something that's just the United States, it's all over the world. Well, that's enough on the birth certificate because I think we touched on that.
Well, I just will have one challenge to the audience, a research challenge for any of you out there that do research. Richie, what were we looking for? Danny wanted to find the authority, what authority provides the state with the directive to record your birth certificate
Yeah.
and turn it into a corporation. So that directive comes from somewhere because they're doing it. The doctors at the hospital do it, and so it's coming from what authority? That's the question.
If anybody in New Hampshire or the United States knows the answer to this, because it's done all across the country, I'd appreciate you dropping a line to the email address on the screen. What we would like to know is how is the government authorized? Is it a statute, code, rule, regulation, an alleged law that does this criminal conversion, taking you from a person, a human being, and turning you into a corporation? We can't find it anywhere, and we've looked high and low. But we're bound and determined to find it, hopefully, and with your help, we'll get that answer. So if you could find that, you hardcore researchers out there, and send it to us. We'll share the information. So thank you for doing that.
Yeah, and hang on for about 50 minutes, and then you can start, because we'll finish the show. All right, the driver's license, similar situation, right?
Yeah, you wanted me to mention what
Yeah.
happened to me.
Yeah, Richie has a good story. He's going and applying for his driver's license.
Yeah, this
and
happened, not this past November, the November before that, so 2015. I went in to get my driver's license and went through all the garbage, and the girl said, sign your name, and it's in a little electronic box. I'm sure you're all familiar with it. So I signed my name, and I put UD next to it, which is under duress, because if you don't sign your name, they're not going to give you a license. What they're doing is tricking you into signing a contract with them. This is their way of doing this, by the way, not mine. I'm not saying this. If you sign your license, you're agreeing to all the rules of the road and all the statutes and everything else that they make. All those statutes and codes and stuff don't apply to you. Anyway, I signed it UD, and then underneath my name I signed 1-308 without prejudice. And all that is saying that under the UCC code, the Universal Commercial Code, 1-308, I'm reserving my rights under common law. I'm not giving up any of my rights. And as soon as I signed that, the girl looked at me and says, you can't sign that. And I said, sure I can, I just did. I'm a little bit of a smart ass, don't mind telling you, once in a while.
For those of you who didn't notice.
Yeah, Dean can attest to that. He tells me to cut it down all the time. But anyway, she said, you can't do it. I said, sure, I just did. And she says, no, you can't sign your name like that. And I says, is it your name or mine? You let me make that decision. I don't need you to make it for me. Anyway, they wouldn't let me sign my name like that. I had to go to the manager, talk to the manager. She said the same thing. Can't sign your name like this. So I ultimately wrote a letter to the commissioner of the DMV. I can't recall her name, but I sent her a letter telling her what I did. I wanted to sign my name, UD 1-308, without prejudice, and I wasn't allowed to do so. She said, you can't do that. And then in the letter, I asked her, why is my name in all capital letters? You spelled it wrong. Now, I know why it's in capital letters, but I acted dumb and said, I don't spell my name that way. You spelled it incorrectly, fix it. They said the computer does that. They can't change it, which is BS. I don't mind telling you. But that's what they said. Anyway, ultimately, I got a call from some gentleman from the DMV, and he said, look at Mr. Merritt, I know you know what's going on, but you either take your license or we'll send you back your money. Which do you want? I said, send me the license. When he sent it to me, my name was on it. Only my name. They electronically erased the UD, the 1-308 without prejudice under it. Now, if that isn't, I don't know what you call that, but I mean, if that isn't against the law, I don't know what is. That's not how I signed my name.
How about tampering with illegal documents, for starters?
Yeah, it's in their eyes, it's a contract, so I'd have to say, yeah, it's a legal document.
Yeah.
But that's ultimately what happened. And the reason this whole thing takes place is because they're trying to control you through commerce. And that's why I put down the UCC, the Universal Commercial Code, commerce. If I don't agree to the commercial codes, to commerce, UCC, what I'm saying to them is all your statutes and your codes don't apply to me. and they don't apply to me. They don't apply to anybody, and if you look on Article 5, Part 2 of the state constitution, read it and then look at the definition of the word state in the context it's given, and you'll find out why. If that's not enough proof, I'm not sure what is. But anyway, that's the driver's license story,
Thank you.
for whatever it's worth.
So currently, in the eyes of the government, everyone is a corporation. See the definition of person to confirm, which we went over 2 weeks ago, or 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Now that's critical here because, and correct me if I'm wrong, Richie, but one of the reasons they convert us all into a corporation is because the government is a corporation and can't do business with a
Live breathing man.
Live
Corporation
breathing.
is a piece of paper.
with a live breathing man. So part of the game is converting every human being into a corporation against their will. We would say against my will, simply because we weren't informed, and they make it out to be like we consented by signing the birth certificate, by signing your voter registrations, your license, your social security card. So all those things are, you are unknowingly committing to a contract that you don't know the elements of that contract. So, but we're here telling you that that particular contract turns your all caps name into a corporation. So the government now can do business with you, or rather your corporation, but they hold you accountable for your corporation. So when your corporation is motoring down the road 15 miles an hour over the speed limit and they pull you over, they're charging the corporation, $175 for speeding. But unfortunately, you're the one paying the price. Now, what they're also doing is they're tapping into your credits as a corporation. We probably should have created a foundation for that, but they're tapping into money that is yours over at the Treasury that belongs to you, or the credits over at the Treasury. And that arises out of the bankruptcy of 1933, where we the people became the surety for the government to continue working, and hence they created the birth certificate bond. Am I getting that right, Richie?
Yes. I wouldn't go any further than that.
Good enough. So the federal government
It gets complicated.
It is very complicated, and by design it's very complicated. The federal government is no longer your government. It is the United States Incorporated, a corporate entity that is supposed to be providing governmental services for the several states in America.
Yeah, let me add this. It's very important to know when you sign up for voter registration, on the top of the form, at least I believe it's on the top of the form, it says, "Are you a U.S. citizen?" Now, everybody says, yeah, geez, I'm a citizen of the United States. It makes sense. You're patriotic. You were born in one of the 50 states, so you say that. The problem with that is that you are not a U.S. citizen, because they're saying United States citizen. United States is the corporation. And if you look at Article 1, Section 8, we granted a 10 square mile area to Washington, D.C., which is the United States. In their eyes, not in mine eyes or yours, in their eyes. That's the seat of the government, United States. Well, as soon as you check off that you're a U.S. citizen, you just agree to abide by all the statutes, codes, rules, regulations, and other crap that Congress puts out, because they're applicable to you. If you're a U.S. citizen, you're under the jurisdiction of Washington, D.C. Check out the Congressional Act of 1871 if you doubt what I'm saying. These people, and when I say these people, I want to be very specific. It's the central banking system under the control, no, I'm sorry. It's the bar under the control of the central banking system. The banks own the bar, and the bar is the British Accreditation Registry. Think about this. In 1776, we broke away from Britain, didn't we? No, we didn't. They still got their talons on us, and they're taking us down. These people, these judges, all of them in America, and there might be some good ones out there, I'm not going to say, but 95% of them are garbage. They should be tried for treason and hanged, in my opinion. There is no justice in America. All there is I don't know, you wanna call it a vending machine? You go into court, it's gonna cost you money. That money goes, part of that money goes in the judge's retirement, goes in his pocket. Is that a conflict of interest? I'd say so. Anyway, the bar is behind all of this garbage. They're taking away common law from the people. This is the state and the federal constitution. They're both common law documents. Declaration of Independence is. Where is your remedy in law as a sovereign person in the state of New Hampshire under Article 7 of this book, which is the sovereignty clause? That the people of this state are free, sovereign, and independent. It doesn't say the state is, it says the people of this state. So once you start understanding these laws and reading them, you find out how much you're being screwed through our ignorance. And it's really important, because if you don't educate yourself, this is going to continue. Your children are going to be worse off than you are now. And for those of you who lost your home, that's been illegal, by the way. Without due process of law, they can't take your property. That's right in the Constitution, state and federal. But they do it every day, because our law enforcement community doesn't know about it. I've tried to reach out to the sheriffs. They don't want to hear it. You want me to read this little book? I can't do that. That's the law. That's what they take an oath to uphold. They don't even understand what it says. I'll back off a second.
All right. The state of New Hampshire is now a franchise of the federal government known as the State of New Hampshire Incorporated. Who was introduced as the CEO of New Hampshire?
Maggie Hassan.
Where was that? Where did that happen?
I was at the Radisson, and I can't remember the event, but it was last year. I can't remember the event, but they introduced Maggie Hassan. They said, here's the CEO of New Hampshire. And everybody applauded. And maybe it's me, but I said to myself, geez, I'm probably one of the few people in this room who know that she is the CEO of New Hampshire. She isn't the governor. The state of New Hampshire Incorporated is just that, a corporation. And she was the CEO. You might think you elected a governor. You didn't. You elected the CEO of a corporation. Everything is done with deception. And by the way, people say, oh, these are conspiracy nuts. These people don't know anything. Well, don't be so lazy, stupid, and ignorant. Okay? Because that's what the government wants us to be. Read the constitutions. Understand them. There's people out there that can help you understand them. On YouTube, you can sit in the comfort of your own home. You don't have to go anywhere. And I'm not trying to be insulting to people, but most of my life I was stupid, lazy, and ignorant. I was in law enforcement, didn't know the law. And I know that cops out there today, overwhelming majority, same thing. They'll talk to the city attorney, the county attorney, or the state attorney general and say, what's up with this law? What's up with that law? Because they're too lazy to open up a book and read for themselves. And you're paid by the people to defend their rights, not the government's rights. You're supposed to be protecting the people from the government.
Very good. All right. There are currently no government officials in America. I'm going to ad-lib here and say that those offices are all vacant. They have all been morphed into corporate positions, such as President of the U.S. is now the CEO of the United States. The governor of New Hampshire is now the CEO of New Hampshire Incorporated. So what Richie's saying is that these are, and they're not random privately owned corporations. They are all connected. They have interlocking boards, and they all have pyramid-style ownership that goes up to the United Nations, the IMF, and a few other places. And it's all owned by the international banking cartel. So the elections that you now participate in are for the corporate officers and not government officials. This has been done through fraud, deception, coercion, and subversion. This has been going on for about 100 years. Your government's now being run by international organized crime ring headed up by central banks and the bar, primarily. The bar being the British Accreditation Registry, which controls the entire function of our legal system in this country. All the lawyers, the judges, and the courts, all controlled by the British Accreditation Registry, which is owned by the Crown over in London, England.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention too, what Dean just read, if you tie that into what we said a minute ago about the voter registration, are you a US citizen? As soon as you check it off, you're in the corporate world now. You're a corporation because the government made you one. You just agree to their corporate rules. A US citizen. Now you're gonna vote in an election for a corporate or corporate positions. I don't know how much you can say about that, but
Yep. All right, the government invests from around the country, and government investments from around the country are in control of approximately 50+% of the entire stock market. As of a few years ago, Microsoft was 84% owned by government corporations. Basically, corporations and governments are one and the same. Corporations lobby the Congress legislature for favors, and the government passes legislation that is favorable to the corporations, to the corporate world, because it is a vicious cycle that never ends. Watch on YouTube Walter Burion's CAFR's The Biggest Game in Town. So that's CAFR's, CAFR's, and that stands for Comprehensive Annual Financial Report. That's the financial report that every government or municipality, corporate government and municipality has to demonstrate their financial structure and well-being, all their financial records for any given year. They do them once a year. And
yeah,
so
that was mandated in 1981 by the federal government that all corporations must file a CAFR. So it's filled out. You can go online, look at the Department of Transportation. Dean's the one that found this for me. Department of Transportation, right here in New Hampshire, you'll get a CAFR. The state of New Hampshire, you'll get a CAFR account. You wouldn't be getting a CAFR if it wasn't a corporation. The local courthouse, Hillsborough County Superior Court, is a corporation. The government doesn't exist anymore, unfortunately. And people say, what are you talking about? My kids go to school, you know, the police is there, the fire department, they're all corporations. All of them are corporations. All you do is pump money into them, unknowing what's going on behind the scenes, just like your driver's license, your birth certificate, the voter registration card, until you start waking up, reading what's going on and understanding it, and then, like me, get mad at your representatives because they're the ones that are screwing you. The ignorance of the legislature in New Hampshire is, to me, deplorable. I hear these guys all the time say, we got to pass legislation for this. We can't let this happen to our people. You're supposed to be passing legislation for the government employees of the state of New Hampshire. Your job as a part-time legislature is to pass rules, codes, ordinances, regulations for the
to manage the government.
well, the managing of the government, thank you, Dean. And the good orderly running of the government, what I was thinking of to say. But that's what it's about. It's not to rule over us. Article 7 says the people of this state are free, sovereign, and independent. I got news for you. Whether you like to hear this or not, sovereign people make the law. If you don't think, you got to study this. You have to look it up. If you dismiss what we're saying, yeah, a bunch of conspiracy crackpots. That's what they want you to say. They want you to turn it. I'm turned off by this guy saying this. You should find out. Look at the information that we're giving you. The Congressional Act of 1871, the 14th Amendment, how they did it. Okay? There's 3 types of citizens, and they get you as a U.S. citizen. Not as a non-citizen state national, which is what we're all supposed to be. They put you into this other category, tricked you into this other category. And we've got so much garbage, it's buried under so much information, it's very difficult to find. But you could find it.
If you read, and of course everyone should read, the U.S. Constitution, specifically Article 1, Section 8, you'll find that we the people granted limited and defined powers to our servant government. Nowhere in the U.S. Constitution do we the people authorize our servant government to operate the FBI, the CIA, the NSA, the TSA, EPA, FDA, BLM, IRS, and hundreds of other federal agencies throughout the world. And when we say hundreds of others, it's over 680 different federal agencies.
Yeah.
680 different federal agencies. Amazing. We authorize our military to operate in forts, ports, military bases, etc., but we currently have 900 military bases in 152 countries around the world. Why? Because our government is a corporation and they assume the power of doing what they want. They only ask us to continue to pay for their unlawful activities, and we foolishly comply with their wishes.
Yeah, I just want to say Article 1, Section 8 of the United States Constitution is defining limited powers. It basically says, and I can't remember all of it, so I'm not going to try to fool you, but there's 18 defined limited powers. Some of those are INS, immigration, they deal with. And by the way, it says they deal with naturalization, which is people coming into the country, not us that live here. We're the sovereign. We're already naturalized by birth. They don't have to do anything. But they trick you and they change things around, like the voter registration that we mentioned before. Anyway, it's bizarre what they do to us, and we don't get it. Immigration is one of the things. The post office, weights and measures, coin money and regulate the value thereof. That's working out fine. Economy's about to crash because the Federal Reserve has raped, plundered, and pillaged everybody in the United States. Sorry, everybody in the world. They're taking everything from us. And you got a guy like Rothschild family with trillions of dollars, and there are people in third world countries who don't make $1 a day or $1 a week to live on. There's something wrong with that. It's just not humane. It's crazy. So anybody that tells me different, but getting back to Article 1, Section 8, there's only about a half a dozen powers we gave them, and right now the United States government is controlling our life. I don't have an axe to grind with anybody on the FBI, DEA, CIA. They're not supposed to exist, though. Why do I have to pay for all of this? My claim is that I don't. None of us do.
So 900 military bases in 152 countries, and that's your government, supposedly managed by we the people. And I would call that, what is it, expansionism, colonialism, what is it, imperialism.
I would call that world domination.
Pretty much. So,
no, I mean, it's not protecting my freedoms and rights. The purpose of the purpose of a government is to protect its people.
yeah. Well, the truth is they're doing the same thing around the rest of the world that they've been doing to us, and they're using our wealth and prosperity to run a military system around the world to control the rest of the world, and that's what's happening. Your local courthouse is now a corporation and thrives on making a profit for that corporation. Justice is no longer operating in our courts. Judges now receive roughly 20% of all fines levied in a courtroom. That money goes directly into the judge's retirement account. Do you think that's a conflict of interest? Now, this is a good one because, if I could say something real quick, Richie.
Go ahead.
The courthouses are now a privately run corporation. So they're there to make a profit, and they have clients. And the clients, of course, are you. And so their revenue stream is you, and everything is designed to draw revenue out of we the people. So if you look at what's happening over there at the courthouses, and I sat into at the Dover one day, and I just sat there and watched for a whole morning, and it was one after another, probably 60, 70 people in a few hours that had just been fined $200, $300. A lot of them were those college students over there for either drinking in public, possession of marijuana, and driving. There was a few DUIs there. So that, in one day, they must, I don't know, they raked in, thousands, yeah, maybe even tens of thousands of dollars. And that was just on the private side here out of we the people. And the fact that each of those charges they're tapping into the Treasury account means that they're making tens of thousands of dollars every day for the people that work in that system, and mainly for the corporate owners of that system. Anything else you want to say about that?
Yeah, I want to get back to, it's something similar, because me and Dean went to a traffic court on a couple of occasions just to witness a friend of ours, and we witnessed a few other cases too, but a traffic violation for anyone in the United States of America is unconstitutional. That means it's against the law. The reason it is because the government cannot pass a bill of attainder or ex post facto law. It's written right into the Constitution. I believe that's Article 1, Section 9. Check it out. I might be wrong, but I think it is. You can't pass a bill of attainder, which is a legislative act intended to deprive you of your rights or property without due process of law. Now, if a cop gives me a ticket for $100, or whatever the amount is, as long as it's over 20, I can take it to a common law court. It suits a common law where the value exceeds $20. A trial by jury is preserved. That's the law. I don't care what anyone says. That's the law, and I'm going to stand for it. The point I'm trying to make with this whole thing is, though, I go to court with my $100 ticket, and the judge says, okay, pay the $100. Well, no, that's not how it works. See, you're depriving me of my due process. Due process is defined in the Constitution, both state and federal. I have to have, the Bill of Rights is put there so the government doesn't deprive me of my due process rights. And in a traffic court, they are. And what should be done, and I'm encouraging people to do this, is to sue the judge and the cop under 18 U.S.C. 242, deprivation of rights under the color of law. That's what's being done to you. You're being deprived of your rights, and you don't need a lawyer for this either, by the way. Read those sections of the law and file the paperwork for it, or get help filing the paperwork for it. But this has got to stop, because all it is money, money, money. There's no justice in America anymore. It's totally bizarre. And I don't mean to, talking, wasting my breath here, talking to people, doesn't seem to sink in. The police are still writing tickets. The lawyers are still lying to them, telling them, don't worry, statutes and codes apply. No, they don't apply. The law says they, I don't give a damn what a lawyer says. The law is what's written, not what you tell somebody. So if you don't read this, you don't know the law. And if you're a cop writing tickets, just because your lieutenant says write the tickets, they did that in Nuremberg. Why did you kill those people? I was ordered to do so. Guys, use your head. You're all intelligent men out there. If it means that much to you that you're going to take this country down, I don't know what to tell you. Keep doing it and watch what kind of a life your children and grandchildren have, and you created for them. It's wrong. It's against the law. You shouldn't be doing it. That's your call to make, though. You want to say he's a conspiracy nut. He must be one of those sovereign citizens. Read the law. You'll find out about sovereignty.
The Declaration of Independence, the Magna Carta, the U.S. Constitution, and the state of New Hampshire Constitution are all common law documents. Try to find a common law court operating in the United States. A court of record, or common law court, is the only remedy in law for the people of the several states. Justice has been stolen from the people at the expense of for-profit corporation known as a corporate courthouse. Continue on.
Yeah, unless you want to comment on that, because I think it's pretty pertinent. I mean, I just said this earlier, that the state and federal Constitution, Declaration of Independence, Magna Carta, a lot of our documents are all common law documents. And common law, simply put, it's a little more complicated than this. Simply put, is that the hierarchy is God is at the top. We, the people, are under God. We only answer to God, okay, or each other, because we're all sovereign. We're all rulers of our own castle. We don't have subjects. And then the government is under us. That's why they call them public servants. They serve the public. They're supposed to be part-time, at least the legislatures are, and they're supposed to be small, not overreaching the way they are with 680, that's just the federal agencies. Look what happened in 9/11. TSA and Homeland Security, I don't know how many thousands, hundreds of thousands of new employees in the federal government. Yeah, let's keep adding more and more and more. Let's be filing legislation and not knowing, putting out laws and codes and rules and regulations and not knowing what they're for, but ultimately you're going to be up to your neck in them and you can't afford it. All you're going to have on you is a ball and chain, which is there already. You just don't know it. Anyway, I don't know if you want to comment on
No, I just wanted to point out that what Richie just described was what is often called American exceptionalism. It's not that we, the people, are any different than the rest of the people around the world. It's that our system was created entirely different than any system that had come before it. Our system of government was designed to have we, the people, be the sovereigns, the king of our own domain, and answerable to no one except in the case that we might encroach on someone else's rights, their fundamental rights given to them by God. Not the rights given to you by your 14th Amendment Citizenship Club of the United States, but the rights given to you by God, your inalienable rights that you were born with. So, prisons have have been privatized across the country. This means that in order for the private prisons to make a profit, the inmate count has to be kept high. This amounts to human trafficking and should be abolished forever. In common law, these are two maxims, principles. One, for every injury there must be a remedy, and number two, in order for there to be a crime, there must be a victim, and the state cannot be the victim. Currently, 70-80% of the inmate population in America prisons are for victimless crimes. You are paying the bill, and the corporate jails are benefiting, and no one else. In other words, the corporations that are these prisons are using this corporate court system to make a profit, and so they've created a system that is in violation of all of your fundamental rights as a human being, and they're putting people in jail for non-crimes, up to 70 or 80% of the inmates. That's correct. They're in jail for a crime against no one else. Simply put, they're using those statutes and codes that are designed to manage the government, the people of the government that work there, not the people of the land who run the country and own the country. So go ahead and speak on that, Richie.
Yeah, most of the people that are doing time in prison don't belong there. I can attest to that because I worked in a Massachusetts prison system for 16 years, and most of the people in there are no different than any of us walking the street. They were in there for a victimless crime, and personally, I mean, we have a war on everything. How's that war on drugs working out? We got 800 and something, close to 1,000 people died from heroin right here in New Hampshire the last 2.5 years. It's working out good. Drugs are rampant because the economy sucks, because the bar and the banks have taken everything from us. Our jobs are gone. They're overseas, thanks to the Clintons, Bill Clinton, signing the free trade agreements, lobbying China to come into the World Trade Organization. I'm getting off track here, but under common law, there are two maxims. And please understand this, because this is extremely important, I believe. For every injury, there must be a remedy. So if I go over to Dean's farm and I steal a pig and I get caught, they bring me in and they say, okay, we're going to make restitution. Rather than send me to prison, which is not going to help Dean at all, they're going to say, okay, you got to pay Dean back the price of the pig, $350, we'll say. So I pay back $350 and maybe some menial task on top of that for stealing property that belonged to him. That's the way common law is supposed to work. The victim is restored. The other part of it is, if there is no victim, there is no crime. Think about this. Some guy's in his backyard, and he's got 350 pounds of marijuana, and he's sitting there smoking it all. Is he bothering you? Do you really care? Because it's illegal now, and people are doing it. You can't regulate the behavior of people, and legislatures are not supposed to do that. They're supposed to regulate the behavior of our state employees, our government employees, so that we keep them safe. I have the legislature put there, we have the legislature put there, excuse me, so that they will make sure, drive 55 miles an hour. Well, that statute is for the state employees, because the cars they drive in, we pay for, and we want them to be safe. Hey, we want those cars inspected, because we don't want you getting hurt. That's not for us, it's for them. Otherwise, why would we have a part-time legislature, number one, or Congress? It says right in the United States Constitution, Congress shall meet no less than once per year. no less than once in the month of December. Why do you think that is? Because the framers, who were brilliant people, said, well, we don't need to have them meet that often. There's not going to be much for them to do. All I got to do is make sure our employees, our federal employees, are safe. That's their function. And if you doubt me, read these documents. It's right in here.
Now, just real quick, do you know anybody that has 450 pounds of marijuana in their backyard sitting there smoking it?
Not really. I don't know anybody. I don't like drugs, and I
Yeah,
really
no.
don't associate with people. I don't care who does them or doesn't do them, but I try to stay away from people that do them.
I guess it could be accused of being a Bogart, but not a criminal, right?
It's not, there are people right now, for example, Dean, as we're talking, somewhere smoking marijuana, doing heroin, and it's against the law.
Mm-hmm.
What's the difference? All they're doing it by making these laws or these statutes is generating money for the government.
Of course.
That's all it's doing. It's doing nothing else.
You can't go through a day and not violate some type of statute, code, ordinance, or law. It just can't be done, and it's by design. It's designed to entrap you so that you are consistently, over your lifetime, creating a revenue stream for these privately owned corporations. It's just the way
Well,
it works.
Yeah, another thing is, if the government really gave a damn, they would be educating our children in the early grades about the dangers of drugs, which I don't believe they're doing.
Instead of teaching them how to have sex with their same gender.
Yeah, that's what we've come to. That's what we've been reduced to. It's ridiculous to think. I mean, our kids should be taught a lot of things. They should be taught the state and federal constitution too, so that they understand what the law is, what their rights are, and they're not given by the government. They're given by God when you're born. And, as an example, when you're a year old walking around, and you might think this is stupid, but I didn't call anybody when my daughters were walking at age 1 and says, is it okay for my daughter to travel? And I asked permission of the state. Or when my daughters first said, Daddy, I didn't call up and say, hey, my daughter just spoke. Is that okay? That's our right to do that. I don't need the permission of the government. I don't need the permission of the government to protect myself with a gun or a bat or anything. If someone's trying to harm me, I got the right to protect myself. The statute doesn't apply to me. Or, I'm sorry, it doesn't apply to us.
Now I'm going to read this next thing, and I'm going to mention a quote here from former President Obama. I'm just going to tee it up by saying that when I heard this quote, and I was there when it happened, when it was live, it was at the very beginning of his presidency, maybe even either during or prior to his inauguration. I don't remember the exact time, but he, when I saw this happen, and I'll give you the quote here. President said he would like to have a private security force as big and as strong, as well funded as our military. So he wanted an internal security force as well funded and as powerful as the American military. First of all, the American military, as far as it goes, funding is concerned and power, is the most dominant force in the world. So if you can imagine, for instance, President Bush or even Donald Trump saying, gee, I'm going to design an internal security force here in the United States that's as well funded and as powerful as the U.S. military. The left would just go berserk, ape-shit crazy. They would just fall apart all over themselves, screaming in horror over that. But when President Obama said this, everybody cheered. So the left cheered for him to design an internal security force as well funded and as powerful as the U.S. military. And at that point in time, it was one of those moments where I just felt like I was in a twilight zone, but I kind of knew in my head that at that point in time this president was going to get away with whatever he wanted because he was that good of an orator and he had that strong of a mind control over at least the left in this country and
Well,
some
let me
of
ask
the
you
middle
though,
ground. Yep.
Dean, you don't think it's justified that they do something like that, have a very large security force? Because we only have city and town police, the sheriffs, the state police, the FBI, DEA, CIA, NSA, plus the military. And let me see. Oh, the TSA, I already said that. And Homeland Security, Secret Service,
BLM.
No, well, they're not law enforcement. They're supposed to be. Oh, I'm sorry. And 75 other federally armed agencies. So we do need an additional security force equal to the military.
And there's
Yes.
only one reason for that, and that's to contain you, the people. And in particular, for, let's say, a government organization that is criminal, corrupt, is running rampant with pedophiles, Satan worshipers, and drug dealers, they would probably need that type of security force, because when the day comes when America wakes up and find out what's going on, they may need that type of a security force, if indeed they can maintain that security force being on their side.
That's a hypothetical situation you're
Yeah.
talking about, right?
Just something that popped into my
Yeah,
mind. Yeah,
okay.
that's all.
If that happened, yeah.
The bottom line is that corporate America is now working for the people. I'm sorry, is not. The corporate America is not working for the people. I didn't bring my glasses today, so I'm missing a few here. It is, however, working for the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers and the George Soroses of the world and other billionaires. The general public is suffering from the deceit that has befallen the people of America. It is estimated that the Rothschilds are worth between $40 and $500 trillion. In contrast, we have people living on $1 a week on the planet. And the question is this humane? Free energy devices are being withheld from the public because they get out. If they get out, the power companies cannot continue to make trillions of dollars every year off of their monopoly system. I thought the power companies were public utilities. Not quite. Why does the public continue to pay for something that they own? So corporations continue to rape our planet of all its resources, and we sit by with total ignorance and allow it to happen.
That's very true. And there are free energy devices. I happen to be one of the people who are at least consulting on working on one, and I know that they're being put together all over the world. Nikola Tesla is the one who originally discovered this. And if you don't know Nikola Tesla, please look him up. He died in, I think, in 1943. But he was a brilliant, brilliant man, probably one of the smartest men we've ever had on this planet, as far as I'm concerned. He wanted to give away free energy to everybody on Earth. And think about this. There are energy devices that you can start up without feeding it any fuel whatsoever. It'll extract energy from the air and deliver all the power you want at no cost to anyone. You could just buy the unit. As a matter of fact, the Kesh Foundation is one of the places you can buy it out of Italy for $800. It used to be $800. I don't know if the price is still the same. But you fire this thing up and it'll generate power forever. Literally forever. Now the thing is, someone in I don't even know some of these third world countries, but you give them one of these devices, they can pump water out of the ground to irrigate their crops and grow their own food, or filter clean water so they can drink it, and have medicine. I mean, what the potential of what can happen to us on planet Earth is unbelievable if we all wake up and smarten up. We're being controlled and dominated by, I don't know, 100 families, 1,000 families. I don't know who it is out there. I know the Rothschilds are at the top of the reign, and the Clintons now with the Clinton Foundation, Soros, this Rockefellers. We don't need any of those people, not to survive and flourish as human beings, and start the people that the pharmaceutical companies are making billions upon billions of dollars, giving you things, and while they're doing these commercials, they're saying, well, so-and-so pill can cause death, paralysis, and they go on and on and on. You're saying, why do I want to take a pill like that? And why isn't there a cure? Like Jerry Lewis ran the telethon for, I don't know how many years. I think I can't say this for certain, but I thought he raised up around $1 billion. You mean they don't have a cure for it yet? I think there's something wrong with that. All they're doing is keeping the corporations going so the corporate heads can get their money, the big paychecks. And we, the little people, continuously die, continuously suffer, people can't afford heat. So that especially older people, they turn the thermostat down and they freeze. That's not right. You work all your life, you should have a little bit of comfort, a little bit of dignity. I don't think Rockefeller is, or the Rothschilds are worried about that. Matter of fact, they probably have the free energy devices.
Speaking of the free energy devices and Mr. Tesla, if you're going to look that up, I want you to look up also carburetors that get 145 miles per gallon, 1,000 miles per gallon, 200 miles per gallon. Carburetors that could produce that type of gas mileage for cars were built back in the 1950s, 60s, and they were, the patents were confiscated by large corporations, and the creators, the inventors, were either shut up or shut down, like as in terminated. And so all of the advanced technologies that are available and have been created are not available to us, and in fact they have what you might consider to be 50 years worth of development in advanced technologies. The Rife machine was around in the 1940s, where Dr. Rife, who was considered to be one of the most brilliant doctors in the country, right up until he created the Rife machine, which had electronic waves that he would identify a certain disease and the vibration rate of that disease, and he would send in these vibration electronic waves that would burst that disease and kill it, and therefore he could terminate nearly any disease just by doing that. That Rife,
no frequency waves?
Yeah, exactly. Once he did that, they burned his offices, they destroyed his equipment and his records, and they vilified him in the media, calling him a quack and all other things. So it's not unheard of. And the same thing is happening around the country with our naturopathic doctors, alternative doctors. They've been disappearing, dying, and creating mysterious suicides, over 100 and some of them in the last couple of years. And you got to wonder why that's happening, because it's under very strange circumstances. And the latest one, of course, is the murder that just happened in Minnesota with the Somali police officer who, when this naturopathic doctor called the police to ask for someone to come to her house because she had a disturbance in her alley, she was out there in her pajamas, and this guy just opened fire on her and killed her. So
there's almost as many killings under these homeopathic doctors as there are under the Clinton trail. So you should be concerned about it.
The Clinton death, count
Yeah.
is spiking up, just like you would see on the government profit corporations that are stealing all our money. So the point is that these corporations that own and run everything are run by the international banking cartels. They think of you as animals and fools, and they scoff at you because they write about everything that they're doing to you, whether it's the fluoride in your water or the there's just an article out yesterday. I wanted to print it to bring it here, but it's on cancer agent that is found in over 250 public water municipalities in the country, exposing roughly 60 million people to this cancer-causing agent. And, they just laugh at us, Other countries, I know there was an interview done on the radio where a guy was over in Denmark, and he was interviewing one of the guys, a scientist from Denmark, and told him that we had fluoride in our water. And he was like, fluoride in the water? What are you guys are a nut. He just couldn't believe it because he didn't know. But he knows fluoride. He knows it's a highly toxic poison. And we're using it all over the country to poison Americans. And what happens is that 18 different Harvard studies say that that's going to dumb down the public to the tune of roughly 18 points and 15 points male-female in their IQ, respectively. And strange enough, these folks that are running the world, the international crime syndicate, the banking cartel, the Rothschilds, Rockefellers, they're fanaticals for their bloodline, and they are a bunch of inbreds, and they're on a spiritual warfare journey here. They've been at war with us from the beginning of time, and the United States has been at war, but you don't know it, and it's an asymmetrical warfare, so it's not a hot war. And the only way that Stalin said that he could take this country down is from within, because you can't defeat the United States with an army outside. So they went about doing their business way back when the progressives got started back in the early 1900s.
100 years ago, yeah.
Yeah. And one last thing there is that, no, I forgot it. I don't know.
That's all right. I just wanted to say that corporations aren't bad. What they've morphed into, especially these multinationals, they control your food supply, your water supply, your oil supply, and they can shut us off anytime they want. Now, I know they're not going to do that because they love you, But you might want to consider that, because Stalin and Mao and Hitler and governments throughout history have killed more people than anyone. And I'm not talking about wars either. I'm not talking about wars. They've killed more people than, what is it, I think 160 million in the past 110 years?
You reminded me what I was saying, that they do write white papers, they write books, and they circulate these papers amongst themselves, and it's all available to you to read. Just look at the White House science czar for President Obama. He was applauded at universities because he wrote this book on how to terminate people on the planet. Their goal is to reduce the planet population by 90%, if not 95%. That's part of the Georgia Guidestones. It's their religion. They are eugenicists. They love to tamper with the human mind, the human body. They do medical experiments on anyone and everyone that they can get a hold of. They have over several 100,000 children missing from this country every year. CPS loses 20,000 kids every year or something like that. I was reading it today. Yeah. Like, where do these kids go? They lose them. Like, oh, gee, I lost that. I was at the store. I lost my kid. I lost that kid. Sorry. So these kids are being human trafficked. There's a sick and sinister system that's happening. And for you to, we would encourage you to do your own research, because, look, we've been doing this for a long time, and it's really going on. And it's all coming into the light now. And I hope we can be a small part of that process. I think that in the very near future, you're going to see a lot of this criminal activity start being prosecuted, because Trump is actually a law and order president, like he said. Go surprise. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. We got about a minute left. Anything for you, Richie?
Yeah, I'm optimistic. I'd like to ask people to share this show, not because me and Dean are on it. You can tell people to put something over my face. I got a face for radio. But really, the message is, wake up. This is your country. This is your life. The law belongs to you. It doesn't belong to the government. The people make the law, and the people pay for the government so that they'll run their affairs. If you don't understand that, then your children and grandchildren are going to suffer for it. Please take the time to read and understand this. Hey, get in touch with me and Dean on the email. We'll help if we can.
We appreciate you tuning in. We hope that we've contributed to you in some way. If you haven't been preparing for a collapse of the economy, consider checking into it, saving up some food and water, get water filtration, and get prepared, because it's all about the collapse in the near future here. Bless you. Have a great week, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you for listening.